The final section of the business plan is really looking at how do we manage risk? What you have to be able to demonstrate in this part of the business plan is that you have considered what the risks of your business are. You've also considered how you're going to manage those risks. Okay, so effectively, you got to lay out here. Here's all the bad things that can happen to my business, and here's what I'm going to do to prevent them from throwing my business off course. People are very concerned about risk. Banks are very concerned about risk. Lenders are very concerned about risk. But risk is inherent in business. There is always risk. So it's not unusual to have risks in a business. The question is, what are you going to do about them in terms of managing them? How are you going to deal with them? So risk management really applies to the many aspects of a business. Your business is subject to internal risks, weaknesses, if you think about SWOT analysis, and external risks. If you think about the SWOT analysis, these would be the threats. Generally, you can control internal risk once you've identified them. So again, the trick in the business plan is to identify the risks. However, external risks may be out of control. Not all risks come from negative sources. Risks may come from positive sources, such as opportunities. Expansion and growth could be risky because you could expand only to not be able to support the expansion if business dries up. The ultimate goal is to minimize risk and minimize the effects of those risks on someone. So your business plan should include a section on risks. The risk analysis in your business plan is designed to show that you've thought about potential things that can go wrong and what you're going to do to deal with them. Your plan should address both internal and external risks. Risks tend to fall into some basic general categories. Natural hazards, the COVID-19 would be an example of a natural hazard, a windstorm, rainstorm, flood, all natural hazards. Nothing you can do about them, they happen. Contracts and legal relationships, again, we need to be careful when we engage in contracts to ensure that they are fair to us and fair to our contractors, and we have to be aware of what our obligations are in the contracts. Financial obligations, misconduct of employees, some employee steals from you or steals information from you or does something illegal that affects the quality of your business. Acts or omissions of third parties. This is where, for example, your accountant is responsible for checking your books and the accountant says she did it but did not do it. That's an act or omission. Federal, provincial, municipal laws or regulations, economic conditions, the economy goes belly up or the economy does really well. Dependence on outside resources. You may be dependent on a company to supply you with bandages. If you're in a business that has something to do with bandages, you're relying on an outside provider to sell you those bandages, but suddenly the market goes weird and there are no bandages available. What impact is that going to have on your business if you only have one source of supply and that supply is dried up? Property loss, fire, theft. Use of technology is often one that is not considered, but technology risks come into play all the time. You think about people changing technology. Will the technology change affect you? If you were in the horseshoeing business 100 years ago and someone invented a car, that's probably not going to be so good for you. That technology changed and there was no need for horses anymore and no need for the shoers who shoed them. The workforce changes, and this is something a lot of employers here locally in Newfoundland are finding. The workforce is getting either older and retiring, and it's hard to get people to actually work, or the workforce is particularly young and they don't have a lot of experience. These are all things that are risks. I really like the internal risks because you should be able to identify them. That's the thing. You should say, what is it within my business, within the purview of my business? And your job in the business plan is to figure out what those are and try to cover as many as possible. Will you get them all? No. But should you get as many as you can? Yes. So broad categories, human resources. People are a risk. They're absolutely critical. But what if you got a critical person in your organization that dies? What if you got a critical person who leaves? What if you got a critical person that steals? What if you got a critical person who does nothing for the morale of your business and goes around poo-pooing everything. These are all challenges that can affect the business, and these are what are considered as real human risks. Equipment and IT risks, for modern businesses, this is a real thing. You talk about getting hacked or getting held for ransom or these sorts of things. Or older equipment, older equipment runs slower and take a lot more time, take a lot more energy. And someone comes along with a new whiz-bang item that can do it 4 times faster with less cost, less energy, could put you out of business instantly. So you need to be aware of what's out there for new equipment, what's out there in terms of the quality of the equipment you have, in terms of maintenance costs and the like, and do you have what it takes? You think about it. If you're a straightforward business where you're in the ditch digging business, so you need yourself a front end loader. Okay, so you go buy a front end loader and you buy it used and you pay $3,000 for it. Okay, great. You got a deal on a front end loader for $3,000. The problem is that front end loader breaks down every single day. Okay, you got a deal buying it, but you didn't get a deal in using it. There's no value in using it because it's broke all the time. So you ask yourself, what's a risk in buying that? There certainly was. You may have gotten a deal on the actual cost, but the value of it was less than the cost. So you had no value out of it. So that's a big problem sometimes when we buy older equipment. For example, your maintenance costs go up. And the question is, every minute that something is down is costing you money because it's not making money for you. And so there are hidden costs in having equipment that's down. Lack of administrative control is a real problem for small business too, because you can't figure out where you put that receipt. It's as simple as that. No administrative controls. How can you claim it on your taxes if you haven't found a receipt? Or how do you manage to keep track of people's salaries if no one's written down how much they make? These are the sorts of things that are really problematic in terms of administrative controls, and companies need to work hard to make sure they have good administrative controls in to reduce risk. Phone lines and utilities, if the power goes off, the line goes off. The appearance of buildings, does the building look hard and worn out? Because your business is going to look hard and worn out if your business is in it. Injuries and damages caused by the property, potholes, slips and falls, these sorts of things. Cash flow, if you don't have enough cash flow to keep your business alive, or you can't get access to cash and when you need it, that's going to be a problem. Cash flow is critical in business. If you cannot keep the cash flowing, your business will go and die very quickly. Appraisal costs, closing costs, for points to buy down interest rates, deposits placed on hold as collateral. This is really what we mean by money being tied up, appraisal costs. So let's assume that you get a building or you go buy a building. You're going to get it appraised. Someone's going to tell you, some professional person going to tell you how much it's worth. Will the appraisal costs come in higher than what you paid for it? You would hope, but what comes in lower? You overpaid for that building. That's a risk. Closing costs. Closing costs are what it costs actually to buy something. The physical cost of lawyers and registration, all those sorts of things. That adds to the price of a building and adds to the price of getting started. Have you anticipated those? And if you haven't, that's a big risk. Costs for points to buy down interest rates. What you want to do is be able to borrow at good rates of interest. And if you cannot get good rates of interest, the cost of borrowing, the cost of renting money is going to go up for you. And that certainly poses a risk. So if you, for example, your credit worthiness drops, your cost of borrowing is going to go up. That's going to affect your ability to pay off the loans, and that could affect your business. Deposits placed on hold as collateral. So if you need $1 million collateral for a business and you got $1 million tied up because you had to put something in place to prove that you were worthy, you can't use that money when it's tied up. So that's costing your business. So those were the internal risks. Now let's look at some of the external risks. Now, the thing is, internal risks you can pretty well plan for. You have a good handle on them. They're ones that you can think about and say, yeah, they're within my control or reasonably within my control. External risks are out there. It's very difficult to plan for them, but you got to be prepared for them nonetheless. It's like why we put in fire departments, because that is an external risk. A building might burn down. Most of the time, the fire trucks are probably not going to get used. but that one time you need them, they need to be there. So external risks are really looking at things that can go wrong and the impact that they could have on you. So market changes will cause businesses to change. You look at the oil business, okay? The price of oil has dropped considerably in the last few months. It's been down around the $20 a barrel mark. For something that was selling for $120 a barrel a few years ago, that's a considerable risk for the Huskies and the Mobiles and all these types of companies. That's a problem. Employees may leave to go to a competitor's shop, taking loyal customers with them. This is common in a lot of businesses. You get a good person and they quit on you and they go over to work for someone else, the odds are some of your customers are going to go leave with them. Rent increases, you have no control or no understanding what's happening with your rent. So sometimes it's good to have a long-term lease in order to keep your rent known. Basically, it's known, but again, that comes with some cost. Personal conflict is a real problem for a lot of businesses. What are you going to do in order to manage personal conflict? If you got 6 people running the business, for example, or 6 owners, that's a lot of people to have as owners. Now, it brings benefits. Surely, 6 wallets from which to draw resources from is great. 6 minds of which to draw information from is great. But get 6 people to agree on things might not be so easy. So conflict will probably arise, particularly as things start going bad. How things go belly up when things go bad. So the employers can have problems, families can have problems, marriages can have problems. All of these things can have an impact on your business. And what are you going to do in order to manage it? If you are the sole operator of that business and you get sick, what are you going to do? Another important personal conflict risk is complacency. Complacency means you're getting used to it and you get slack because you get used to it. You get comfortable. So you may be successful for a while and think, I got a knock now. I'll just sit back and rake in the money. And then everything changes. That could be a big problem. The business environment risk. We see the environment is really not talking about the natural environment. We're talking about the business environment here. We're talking about, economics. We're talking about cultural changes, social changes, technological changes. All of these things can come into play. Natural disasters, the COVID situation right now is a good example of things going on in the business environment that are having serious implications for business. Your business has to be able to change, and can your business change? You think about college, for example. You talk about a business that had to change. We had to put everything online very quickly. Now, thankfully, a lot of us into college work online as it is, and so it was a pretty easy transition. But people who are not used to online, they got a major hurdle come time for September. So, in order to manage risk, we really need to have some process that we have laid out in a business plan. Okay. And here is a suggested process that you should put in your business plan in order to kind of indicate to someone reading the plan that you've done a good, thoughtful process in terms of what you're going to do in order to manage risk. The first thing you need to do is identify your risks. Okay. What are the potential things that can go wrong in my business and list them out in your business plan? And it could be any number of things. It really depends on the business. And you could say, well, there's thousands of risks. Yeah. What are the key ones? What are your company's vulnerabilities? So this is really dealing with external risks. What are the external things? How vulnerable are we? One business person I know was telling me, his biggest challenge is he only has 1 or 2 customers. They're big customers, they're valuable customers, they do great, but what if 1 or 2 of those customers decided not to deal with them anymore? Gee, that when you're reliant on customers to keep your business afloat, that means they have a tremendous amount of control over you. And what do you do in order to mitigate those risks? So, in terms of vulnerability, we really want to take a look at what are some of the challenges there for your business. Where are some of the potential vulnerabilities in your business? And what are you doing in order to manage those vulnerabilities? And so this third step is really the preparing for them. What are the contingency plans? So what are the policies that you should put in place or you'll put in place in your business in order to mitigate your risk, particularly financial risk? What processes are you putting in place? Human resource risk, what processes are you putting in place? These are important to put in your business plan in terms of what are you doing about it? Okay. The other thing that is probably most critical for businesses in order to mitigate most of the risks that they deal with is insurance. Okay. So you're going to be wanting to prove to someone reading the business plan that you have your business insured adequately for things that can go external. So, for example, a slip and fall will be a liability problem. A theft could be a problem for your business. So these are all insurable items. So you can get all kinds of insurance, and I listed down here some. General liability insurance is really a slip and fall type thing, which covers off someone coming into your store, having a problem, suing you. The insurance company will pay. Covers property damage, bodily injury, medical expenses, and costs of hiring legal counsel to defend your company. Product liability insurance. Now, if you're selling a product that makes someone sick or the like, that could be problematic for you. So product liability insurance is a big one. So damage caused by defective products. So companies normally, if you're making products, you want to have some sort of product liability insurance. Professional liability insurance. This is if you're an engineer, a doctor, a dentist, a professional. What are you doing? Now, if you're a carpenter and you're building houses too, oftentimes the home warranty type thing is a form of insurance for you as much as it is the customer, because what that will do is the customer will pay for this insurance, or you'll pay for this insurance, billing it out to the customer. That basically guarantees your work. And if there's a problem, that insurance will then pay off. Commercial property insurance covers loss or damage of business property. And so this could be useful too. And there's all kinds of other types of insurance too. I've only hit on some of the key ones there. There's business interruption insurance. So your business got to shut down because of COVID or something like that, a fire. And this will basically continue your revenue stream until your business is up and running. So these are all types of insurance. And you got to think about in your business, what type of insurance do I need? Do I have enough coverage? What is the coverage that needs to be included in your business plan? And what are you going to do to monitor that risk? And this is something in your business plan you need to really say is, how are you going to manage the risk? What are you doing to monitor it? What in your business, when your business is up and running, how are you going to manage this to ensure that you've covered off some plan in the event that things don't go so well? So that is the business plan. If you think about a business plan, those are the core parts. Now, oftentimes business plans have appendices, and appendices are just the back end for stuff that you couldn't fit in the contents. Okay, so if you got pictures of the business or photos of these sorts of things, or like comparisons from other companies, or other interesting data that could be useful in supporting the main core of the business plan, that would get put in the appendices at the end. The business plan, as I say, can be a fairly long and lengthy document, usually around 30 pages. It takes a long time to do. But once it's done, it's never really done. The business plan is a living document. They say you're allowed to change it. This is where word processors are wonderful, because as your business starts moving along, you can change your business plan. You can update it and change it as things progress and you get more information. So it's useful. It's a useful tool for that too, as a comparison and being able to manipulate it as you move along. So those are the key things that you want to be able to take away from this particular module is, what are the components of the business plan? What do those components have in them? And that's what I've tried to do here tonight. Are there any questions?